Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avengers.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
The rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
We are getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Generals gathered in their masses, just like witches at black masses. Evil minds that plot destruction, sorcerer of death's construction. In the fields of bodies burning, as the war machine keeps turning, death and hatred to mankind, poison in their brainwashed minds. Oh Lord, yeah. Politicians hide themselves away. They only started the war. Why should they go out to fight? They leave that role to the poor. Lord, yeah. Time will tell on their power minds, making war just for fun, treating people just like pawns in chess. Wait till judgment day comes, oh Lord, yeah. Now in darkness, world stops turning, ashes where the body's burning. No more war pigs have the power, hand of God has struck the hour. Day of judgment, God is calling, on their knees the war pigs crawling, begging mercies for their sins. Satan laughing spreads his wings.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Red Pill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a fantastic evening so far, or morning, or afternoon, wherever it might be. I don't know if there's afternoons in the morning and the evening. I don't know. I don't pay attention to all that, but I hope you guys are doing well, and everybody is Ready for what's to come. Holy shit. A lot of things are just happening. We are in the rapid fire movement of the Trump administration. Ever since January 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, it has just been go time. And there's no hesitation with this administration and what's going on. And, I like to look at things from a systems perspective. I like to look at things from a 40,000 foot view, look down. I don't like to take sides when I look at the world construct and how it's evolving and unfolding. So I think that's why it gives me a pretty unique understanding of what's happening in the world. Maybe I don't. Maybe I'm full of shit. I don't know. No, I don't think we are. I think that we've been over the target for a very long time. Myself and one of my partners, Alpha, man, we've just been over the target with our show DEF CON. DEF CON is 0. And so if you guys are DEF CON fans tonight, it should be added back on the Rumble. It will be DEF CON 0 with just me. So I will be hosting DEF CON 0 by myself tonight. And so we were going to have a lot of fun over there. So if you guys could join me, it'd be pretty awesome. So make sure that if you can stay up late and listen to DEF CON, I hope to see you guys over there. It'll be immediately after, well, not immediately after the show. It's at 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. So it's after the show. Now, a little bit of news. I'm excited about this one. So this took me a little while to build. I've been actually building it for like years, but we finally got it to where we wanted it. And so if you guys are subscribers to the Red Pill Project, everything that we do, if you go to redpills.tv right now, you're going to see a new website. And typically, nope, it's not playing the live video, but eventually it'll play the live video. But we have the last video up there. Our Substack is completely connected. So you can find our Substack on there. There's a merch store that's connected, all of our live streams, ways to connect with us. Information about me, the music that you love, that you wanted to get is right there. All of our podcasts are then on there. There's an inventory of about 20 different podcasts that go on there and the archive. All of our articles, our newest article right there, Alice in Wonderland PsyOp in your social media feed. Our merch shop, all directly connected up in here on the Red Pill Project's new website. Plus our sponsors, can't forget about them. Our awesome sponsors that help keep us afloat and keep this alive. And then you guys with everything that you help support in the mission and ways to support us, whether it's cryptocurrency. Rumble Wallet is on there, as well as our crypto course that you can find on there, crypto consultations, and then our Give, Send, Go campaign. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then Social Red Pill is linked up right here in the right-hand side for anybody who's like, what's the Social Red Pill? You can go up there and find it. So excited that the Red Pill Project, and then our social media. Social media is right here, and it's all linked up on the front of the page. So it took me a little while to build this up. I'm excited about it. It's launched. Our show schedules are right there scrolling below, as you can see. Pretty cool modern website. If you find any problems, so it's only up there temporarily. I'm just doing a beta check to kind of make sure that everything's working. If you have problems with it, let me know. So go in there, tinker with it, play with it. Let me know what you guys think. And I appreciate any and all feedback on it. I can already see one thing that wasn't working, but that's okay. The live feed is supposed to be playing, but it's not. I'm not worried about it. So let's get into the situation report, what we call a sit rep in the military. And this comes from General Michael Flynn. And I know we don't kind of cover a lot of what General Flynn is doing just because there's a lot of moving parts in the world. There's a lot of things happening. There's a lot of evolution of warfare. Tonight's episode is called Unrestricted Warfare. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But I want to get into the context of what General Michael Flynn is talking about here. So he put out this post today, spiritual versus ideological. It is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What we're facing is a hardened, disciplined Marxist ideology movement that's far larger, better trained, and better resourced than most Americans are willing to admit. They see this as a war. I see this as a spiritual war versus an ideological war. It starts in the streets, moves through the cities, and has been embedded in our universities for years. Minneapolis is ground zero again, just as it was in 2020. Once again, the lesson being taught is that churches can be targeted, communities destabilized, the order challenged without accountability. The American people see it. They're exhausted by it. And they're waking up to the reality that slogans and party labels won't save a nation. This is about local action, moral courage, and community standing firm, especially within our churches. And let's listen to what he has to say here on Bannon. because there's a few different important messages I wanted to bring about with this.
We are facing a hardcore and a hardened Marxist ideological group of people that is larger than most people understand. They are well trained, they're well resourced, they're active, and that was James O'Keefe's point. That we have to understand that these are people that are devout followers of their own, sort of religion, if you will. And this religion is a very hardcore Marxist ideological, underpinning, and it starts, on the streets. It starts in the, in the cities, and it clearly is running throughout the universities in our country, and it has been for some time. This is not, Democrats versus Republicans. I beat my head against the wall on this kind of issue all the time because people in the political establishment think, well, we have better ideas and better policies because we're Republicans. Bull. This is a war. These people see it as a war. Nobody wants to use that word. It's clearly a spiritual war for sure. And, and my thing, and that's where I'm out and about right now, and I appreciate you allowing me to come in from the street. I mean, my thing is getting local action going in local communities, particularly in with community leaders and within the churches that we have, because what we just learned and what they just learned is they can get away with attacking a church service, right? They just learned that they can do it because they just did it. And the DOJ walked away from this Don Lemon decision, right? So, I mean, they just learned that they could get away with it, and they're going to do it again. And what they're learning in Minneapolis, which is ground zero again, because remember, this is 2 blocks from where that woman was killed. That was George Floyd in the summer of 2020, and we saw what happened in the summer of 2020 with no action.
Okay. There's another one I want to actually bring about from him as well. And I agree with this next one that I'm going to play. But I want to comment on what General Michael Flynn was saying there. Coming from that person right there and understanding his background, his knowledge, his expertise in the arena of 5th generation warfare, unrestricted warfare, of insurgencies and counterinsurgencies and how they operate. Going through his very subtle message there, a warning call. Hey, this is real. This is a war. He prefaces certain things in his statement that this war is very, very real, that it's happening right now in U.S. cities, and ground zero means that more things are going to stem from this. Then he says something important. This is about local action, moral courage, and community standing firm, especially within our churches. This isn't going to church and praying, people. This isn't going and going to your church and talking to your pastor and praying to God that this resolves itself. This is the Green Dragon Tavern. And anybody who understands that reference understands what I'm saying. This is about conjoining those community networks, establishing those community networks, bringing about forms of inter-exchange and communication, making sure that you have that pantry full of things, making sure that you have the gas for the generator, making sure you have the bullets, the rounds that go into the firearms for when you want to go target shooting in your backyard. There's a war coming. Actually, it's not coming. It's already here. We just never noticed it because it was called unrestricted warfare. In unrestricted warfare, it has no bounds. You remember back in WWF or WWE wrestling, they would say, no holds barred. That's unrestricted warfare. And we've been living it for well over a decade, probably even longer. It's psychological, it's manipulative, it's economic, it's political. It's stealing elections out from underneath an entire nation and then coercing, forcing, and getting on the payroll their politicians to cover it up. Now, you ask, who is behind it? Well, that's a good question. There's a lot of answers out there of who's behind it. Who is the head figure, the puppet master? Who is it? The British Empire, the central banks and the bankers? Is it Mark Carney? Is it Larry Fink in the WEF, or Klaus Schwab, or is it Xi Jinping over in China? It's all of them. That's the thing that people have a hard time understanding. Is I've talked about generalization multiple different times, that us as Americans typically tend to generalize on things. Like, there's one thing that we see and, oh my God, all Jews are bad. No, all Jews aren't bad, right? And we see one thing and it's, that politician is corrupt, so therefore all politicians are corrupt. The United States of America is the country of warfare. No. It's politicians who set that policy, who brought that about. It's not all of Americans. Most Americans disagree with warfare. But we have this idea of generalizations that we typically bring into conversations and then develop thought structures upon them. One of the things that we always want to do is we want to point the finger at the boogeyman. We want to be able to name the boogeyman. It was him. It was them. It was that one group, because no multiple groups could work together in a line to do this. I got some news for you. It was all of them. And at some points in times they coordinated. Other points in times they didn't. Power is distributed within this framework. This was the rules-based international order that formed after World War II. Power was distributed, but it wasn't distributed amongst individuals or people. It was distributed amongst financial institutions, political think tanks, NGOs, educational institutions, global institutions like the United Nations. And they've infiltrated every aspect of our society to the point where Yuri Bezmenov's words that he spoke back in the early 1990s when he defected from Russia and was interviewed. And he said, I don't think you understand that the communists, they will stop at nothing. They're already in your country. They're already in your education systems. They're already teaching your children, the next generation. They won't come in here with guns a-blaring and try to rule and dominate you with warfare, but instead they will use a whole different level of warfare, an unrestricted warfare, to where they will take generations to sow the division. Well, they will start with the youth and begin aligning their ideological nature into their minds. For when they grow up and become the leaders in the world, the plan is set. That's where we are at today. We're at the fulfillment of all of that. General Michael Flynn, in another video with Bannon, he said that President Trump needs to form a People's Council to advise on what we are facing. He's not going to get the advice he needs from the bureaucracy inside Washington, D.C. They're part of the problem. I agree with this statement 100%. President Trump, if this message gets out to you, you need a council of American citizens who understand the global landscape, who understand political warfare, who understand unrestricted warfare, who understand the social construct and how it's evolving, who understand your voter base, MAGA, America First, who understands the interlinings between what's happening in the different factions within this movement. I hope he heeds that advice. And I volunteer. I'd absolutely volunteer for that. So General Flynn said that Minneapolis is ground zero for this. Jesse Walker did 15 minutes on this the other day. I'm not going to play the whole thing. I'm only going to play a few parts about it. But it's important to understand that this is no longer hidden and compartmentalized. The things that we've been talking about for the last 5-6 years, that people are like, you're just a conspiracy theorist, are true, are happening right now. Things that we predicted on this show are happening. Listen.
Tim Walz finally picked up the phone. He spoke to President Trump. Governor Tim Walz called me with the request to work together with respect to Minnesota. It was a very good call, and we actually seem to be on a similar wavelength. Walz, a lame duck, under investigation over Somali fraud and under intense pressure from the Minnesota business community. He can't afford to have George Floyd-style riots again. The president hopes he and Walz can work together.
It is President Trump's hope and wish and demand for the resistance and chaos to end today. That's why President Trump spoke with Governor Walz directly this morning, and he has outlined a clear and simple path to restoring law and order in Minnesota. We hope Governor Walz will do the right thing.
The president is shaking up personnel, dispatching border czar Tom Homan to Minneapolis and Chief of Border Patrol Greg Bovino, who had been providing backup to ICE, will be going back to the border. The administration is looking for calm and cooperation after a deadly altercation Saturday. ICE was zeroing in on a foreign fugitive from Ecuador, wanted for domestic assault, when anti-ICE agitators pinned agents down in a narrow street. Border Patrol was attempting to remove the mob when a guy with a concealed gun physically confronted Border Patrol and resisted arrest. Viewer warning, this is graphic.
The people! The is wrong with you? Honestly!
The shooting's now under investigation, and body cameras are being reviewed. When Alex Preddy approached the agents, he was packing a fully loaded 6 Sauer 9mm handgun with 2 full mags. He did have a concealed carry permit. Reports say he did not have an ID on him, and we don't know whether he alerted officers that he was carrying, which is what everybody with a concealed carry permit is instructed to do when encountered by law enforcement. Resisting arrest with a loaded gun is incredibly dangerous. Video of the shooting shows agents yelling "gun, gun, gun" during the struggle. One video is believed to show an agent removing Alex Preddy's weapon before the shooting, but it's still unclear. DHS is investigating whether Alex Preddy's gun may have accidentally discharged. This particular pistol has a history of accidental misfires that may have triggered Border Patrol to defend themselves with deadly force. It's a very loud, violent, and chaotic scene. And these are the types of things that happen, unfortunately and sadly, when you bring a loaded gun to a dangerous immigration raid, confront agents, and resist arrest. We wish it hadn't come to this. Lawyers will be determining whether the shooting was justified, but the Minneapolis police chief doesn't care.
Even if there is an investigation that ultimately proves that at the time of the shooting it was legally justified, I don't think that even matters at this point, because there is so much outrage and concern around what is happening in the city. People have had enough.
Immediately after the shooting, anti-ICE activists descended onto the scene and made mayhem.
Hey!
Some protesters seem to have a death wish. Watch.
The kids, shoot us in the face! Shoot me in the head! Why don't you shoot me in the head? You cowards! You're cowards! I'm right here! Kill me!
These aren't your run-of-the-mill, mostly peaceful protesters. One of them bit an immigration agent's finger off, like a cannibal. And last night, broke into the hotel where agents were sleeping.
Okay. You get the gist. Now, why is all this important? Because there's more going on than just that. There's other stuff that is happening, like the signal chats. See, these ICE protesters aren't just kind of showing up to where ICE is and then just following around. No, they're coordinated. They're utilizing Facebook groups. They're utilizing various different apps, Telegram, Signal. One of those groups, the Signal group, was infiltrated by a few different conservative journalists. And what they found in there was staffers for Governor Walz, potentially even the lieutenant governor of Minnesota as an admin in these groups. Now, the interesting part about these groups is the coordination behind all of it, the tactics that are being utilized are as if Saul Alinsky himself wrote the book. These are the communist tactics. These are the tactics to bring about a color revolution. And they're playing out right now. See, Alex Preddy, he's not a martyr to them. He's not a victim to them. He was a pawn utilized. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When you have massive amounts of people following around federal agents who are trying to conduct very serious operations and missions to apprehend violent criminals, and you have these people with whistles standing behind their back, and you have vehicles following them around, some of these people even armed, whether it's constitutional or not. But I just want you to get this understanding. It was never a matter of if, it was only a matter of when shots would ring out and someone would get killed. See, they know this. The Marxists, they know this. The Chinese, they know this. And that's why they go full press. And when you have people like Renee Good or Alex Preddy that die, that is the catalyst reaction that gets more people to rise up out of their jobs, out of their homes, and onto the streets until you come to a moment of precipice where you have this overflow of people. And it looks organic, but it's highly constructed and organized and controlled. And that's when that revolution occurs. We're this fucking close to it. An hour ago, Ilham Omar was at a town hall event in Minneapolis, and someone sprayed an unknown substance on her, calling for Secretary Noem to resign. She was talking about Secretary Noem should resign, which I don't disagree with. But somebody sprayed Ilham Omar with an unknown substance. This is real. I'm going to give you my thoughts on it in a second because this follows the constructed narrative.
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh my God, he sprayed something on her.
I need a napkin to know nothing. No, we will continue.
No. You need to go get checked.
No, we will continue this. We're not going to get away with it.
Okay. A few different things, observations, because I like to observe. Ilham Omar is under massive amounts of scrutiny and investigation under the Trump DOJ. She's one of the primary henchmen in Minneapolis. That's the head of all of this fraud. She went from $30 in her bank account to $30 million in her bank account in just a few short years. At the height of everything that's going on, 2 shooting deaths by ICE of American citizens in just 2 weeks. What a better time to stage something like this. And I am calling this stage because there is something that is very interesting that is happening here. That person who sprayed whatever he sprayed on her is a paid agitator. He is an actor that was paid to be there. Oh, you'll probably come out and have some conservative roots, but you'll find out really deep down inside, he is absolutely liberal. But what I want you to see is this reaction right here. Watch Ilham Omar.
No. You need to go get checked.
No, we will continue this. We're not going to get away with it.
You need to go get checked. No, you don't know what.
She doesn't care about being sprayed. I'm sorry, but if somebody sprays something on me in a public center and I'm a high value target like that, I'm getting fucking naked. I am taking my clothes off. I'm getting that shit as far away from me as possible. But she's not. She's not taking off her sweater. She's not trying to wipe it off. So we're going to go on with this conversation. Why? Oh, she's supposed to have no fear because that is the emotional constraint that they want to see within their leaders. This was staged. No doubts about it. This was staged. But this is what we're going to be expecting. Expect false flags. They are coming. The trend of the day. Did you hear the trend today? I've seen this a few different times today. Few different podcasts discussing it, and I didn't watch the podcast. I only saw their titles. The trend of the day. What is the trend of the day? Trump is backing down over Minnesota. Trump is weak. He's backing down over Minnesota. Oh my goodness. There are 3 types of people in the world. All right, people. There's 3 types of people in the world. If you didn't know this, write this down because it's probably one of the most important life lessons you're ever going to learn. There's 3 types of people in the world. Those who watch things happen, those who make things happen, and those who wonder what the fuck just happened. The influencers and pundits thinking Trump is backing down in Minnesota are clueless to the war being fought in the larger framework of strategy. They are the ones who are wondering what just happened and try to rationalize it with typical human logic and emotion. I don't mean this to sound cruel, but most people with big audiences on X and other platforms are clueless to what is actually happening, are simply echo chambers for controlled narratives. So, I said below is a post that I wrote before Trump had his call with Waltz a day before. And then I said, this is straight out of The Art of War, right? Don't stoke the fire. You remove the fuel, then send in the firefighters to extinguish the flame. So, this was posted prior to Trump having his call with Tim Waltz. How to avoid further acceleration of a color revolution in Minneapolis. First part, de-escalate. If protesters are there because of ICE, give them no reason to be there. Move on to another city, retain intel and recon, and form in a few months. Investigate. Replace ICE with federal prosecutors and FBI that will begin investigating the criminality and corruption in Minnesota, speeding up the timeline for indictments. Prosecute. Arrest the criminals involved with low-hanging fruit to the highest-ranking traitor. Remove them from the chessboard. Then, once the political agitators they are fueling this dangerous situation are in jail, then bring ICE back in. The one strategy that the left will continue to pursue is increasing the chaos. They will put more agitators in front of ICE and fuel and incite more violence. They need this to spark the revolution. If this is a game, they are winning at the local level. Perception matters. What were the words that Donald Trump used today when asked about his call with Tim Waltz? You want to hear it? I don't have the clip, but we are de-escalating the situation in Minnesota. They are polling Customs and Border Patrol back. Bovino is gone. He's back at the border. They're leaving a small detachment of ICE there, and guess who's coming in? Tom Homan. Tom Homan with DHS investigators. Tom Homan with criminal investigators, with FBI and prosecutors are coming in. Trump understands the game that's playing. He's not weak. What he's doing is he's getting them to play their hand early. Wait, what? What did we learn over the last 3 months of ICE being in Minneapolis? We learned how quick they could set up a network of communication, of infiltration, of integration. We monitored and controlled all of that. You think Signal Chat is secure? You're crazy. Understand that they were watching every single move, every single text message, every single signal group message, every single document that exchanged hands. They knew where these people were meeting. They understood who the organizers were. They were watching the financing come in. And then right at the moment before their color revolution took off, Trump pulled the rug. He says, we're de-escalating. We're going to leave. No more ICE. Well, what does that mean? That means that everybody goes back to work. Everybody goes home. There's no reason for the protesters to continue out there. Well, at least this is the idea. And then what happens? You get Tom Homan that comes in with ICE investors, DHS investigators. And what do? They start to look at who were the ringleaders. Who were the people leading these initiatives? Where was the money flowing in from? Then you take down those networks. Then after you take down those networks, guess what you do? You bring ICE back and they can do their job. Bill O'Reilly just exposed what he says is the most important detail of the Minnesota saga. He's right. A name to remember. Listen to this.
Here's the most important part of this whole thing, unreported, okay? There is a man in Shanghai, China, an American citizen. His name is Neville Roy Singham. He works with the Beijing government. He is funneling millions of dollars into the United States of America through 501s like Party for Socialism and Liberation, Democratic Socialists of America, Minnesota Immigration Rights Action Committee. There he is, okay? Connecticut-born, 71 years old, billionaire tech guy. He is funneling money here to these radical organizations who are then agitating professional people, communists mostly, because Singham's a communist, all right, to go in and foster rebellion. You heard that story reported? That is absolutely true. The man has been investigated by the FBI in the past, this Singham character, okay? This isn't some organic thing. This is a foreign power, Beijing, using this American citizen who lives openly in Shanghai in luxury, knowing that this man is funneling tens of millions, probably more, into this country to try to destroy the government. What the deuce is that?
Why would China want to be producing a color? I mean, they got kick-ass trade deals with the U.S. I mean, they're one of the top world powers. I mean, come on. Who's been telling you that China's behind the majority of this for the longest time? Oh my goodness, what is going on here? Neville Roy Singham. Remember that name. Go back to what I just said 10 minutes ago. De-escalating. They pulled the rug out of the color revolution. They're going to pull ICE almost completely out. And there's no reason for the protesters to be there. Now you analyze the networks. Where's the money coming from? Then you take it down. Get your silver. We'll talk about silver here in a minute. Border Czar Tom Homan. Today I met with Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, and top law enforcement officials to discuss the issues on the ground in Minnesota. We all agreed that we need to support our law enforcement officers and get criminals off the street. While we don't agree on everything, these meetings were a productive starting point, and I look forward to more conversations with key stakeholders in the days ahead. President Trump has been clear. He wants American cities to be safe and secure for law-abiding residents, and they will be. Tom Homan is not a guy to mess with. Tom Homan, I bet, makes Tim Walz probably piss his pants. And don't think for one minute that Tom Homan doesn't understand the level of corruption and treason of Tim Walz. And Tim Walz knows this as well. The 8th Circuit Court today sided with Donald Trump. ICE agents are freed from Minnesota protesting restrictions. The appeals court overturned a lower court ruling that limited the use of force against protesters. The panel said the video shows much of the protest conduct was not peaceful. AG Bondi, liberal judges tried to handcuff our federal law enforcement officers. The 8th Circuit has fully agreed they can't do that. So President Trump came out today and said that his administration is reviewing everything concerning Alex Pretty's shooting in Minneapolis and suggested that ICE agents could leave at some point. Again, reiterating what I was saying right there. Now, I'm not going to get into the Alex Pretty stuff because we discussed it yesterday. If you want to learn my opinions on it, go watch my video from yesterday. I break it down. It was tragic. It was mistakes made on both sides. But when you start to look at the communists and you start to look at the 5GW, the fifth generation warfare, the unrestricted warfare domain, this is the type of fuel that they need to stoke their fire with. This is the type of event that they wait for so they can begin to mobilize. Now, why was China involved in any of this? There's a few reasons why China's involved in this. There's a few reasons why millions of Chinese citizens came over the U.S. border during the Biden administration, why military-age males from China came over, why China was working with, Mexican cartels and funding them with uniforms and weapons and gear, manpads, rockets. Because China wants to rule the world economically, politically, and socially. China believes that it's their time for a 100-year reign in the New World Order. And China has been working relentlessly since Bill Clinton gave them nuke secrets to ensure that they were the world leader in this position that we're moving into right now in this time frame. We're about to transition, but it's not really a transition, it's a segue. Before they do that, I do got to get an ad out there, and I do want to go back and show the website one more time. But we're going to go ahead. This is on Rumble. If anybody's interested in this, check this out on Rumble. You can find it out there. Some people journal. Other people's buy snark magnets. These are bold, sarcastic magnets with quotes like, "Witness the void where I once cared. Your approval is not required. And I drink coffee for your safety." You ever get tired of explaining yourself to people who don't listen anyway? Snark magnets let you say exactly what you're thinking without starting an argument. Fridge, locker, cubicle. If it's your space, it's fair game. Made in the USA by a small creator who understands the assignment. Reclaim your space. Use code RUMBLE10 for 10% off your entire order at thingsofholding.com. Again, use the code RUMBLE10 for 10% off your entire order at thingsofholding.com. All right. So I have a few different ways that I can go in with this. Let's talk about a few more topics here. So Trump signed an executive order today placing the federal government in charge of the LA wildfire rebuild, taking over where Gavin Newsom failed. This will be interesting because this is going to give them direct access to understand the money flows of how money was flowing in and out and where that money went for the repairs of the Palisade fires. So that'll be really interesting to kind of see what comes about from that. Trump today, Cuba will be failing pretty soon. The Trump administration is weighing options to oust the communist Cuban regime, including a naval blockade that choke off oil imports. So first Venezuela, next Cuba. China is not very happy. There's a lot of things going in China right now, and this is kind of why they are very quiet. Mark Carney to Donald Trump today. He said, "I explained to him our arrangement with China. He was impressed. But to be absolutely clear, I said to this president, I meant what I said in Davos." Carney told Davos the rules-based order suffered a permanent rupture, and Canada will no longer perform rituals of compliance to the U.S. That's interesting. Carney and Trump had a conversation. Carney comes out and tries to strong-arm Trump. I'm going to do what I want to do. Well, if you go through the national security strategy and the national defense strategy of Donald Trump, Canada's a part of it. Not necessarily Canada happened to be a part of it, but Donald Trump's going to make Canada a part of it. That's why it gets really interesting here. You remember what I said a few weeks ago? I said, right now you're going to hear about Venezuela, and then after Venezuela, we're going to talk about Greenland. And immediately after Greenland, what are we going to talk about? Canada. Donald Trump's going to make a move on Canada. I don't know what it's going to be, but I bet it's going to be for the Northern Territories. That's my thoughts. This was interesting. I haven't heard too much about this. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the cancellation of all contracts with consulting firm Booz Allen Hamilton following the conviction of a leaker of IRS tax documents during Trump's first administration. This is huge. Booz Allen Hamilton, Booz Allen is huge in the contracting world. And what we're seeing is exactly what Pete Hegseth kind of said, is that, listen, you guys don't want to play ball. You don't want to be for the defense of the American public and for the American military and our intelligence community, then get the hell out of the way. We'll find someone who does. But there's going to be a complete revamping of the military industrial complex. So pretty interesting there that we're seeing one of the granddaddies there losing massive amounts of contracts with the U.S. government. Iran talk is heating up again. Trump says the situation in Iran is in flux, with the U.S. sending a massive armada to the region. He believes Iran wants to strike a deal, possibly influenced by intense pressure the U.S. is applying. He said strikes are still on the table. We have big armada next to Iran, bigger than Venezuela. They want to make a deal. They want to talk. We'll see what that goes about. Now, my thoughts are that Trump gave them an ultimatum. That right now, Iran is on a time frame, a deadline that is running out on that ultimatum. And if they don't respond or if they don't make a deal, it's over. Now, today, there was a massive explosion at a nuclear site in Iran. The IRGC Quds Force has confirmed explosions heard at the Parshin nuclear facility. They do not know the source or location, and they were supposed to send more updates, but no updates were sent. In other words, either Iran or Israel or the U.S. did an operation in Iran, or Iran had an accident when they were trying to do what they said they weren't going to do, and that's continue their nuclear programs, which is pretty bad. Jennifer Zhang said that the rumor has it that former CCP leader Wang Jintao has died. Now, we haven't seen any confirmation of this. This could just be over exaggeration. But Wu Jintao, if you did not know, former prime minister, he is the one that tried to formulate the coup on Xi Jinping back in 2022 and has been the epicenter in the elders community of the CCP, more so in the last 8 months, that has gotten these military generals to kind of turn on Xi Jinping. And so the idea that he potentially was re-educated, taken or detained by the Xi administration, or even executed and just nobody's saying anything, it's a possibility. There is a definite coup operating in China right now against Xi Jinping. And Xi Jinping seems to be very much on top of all of it. Gold is skyrocketing. You see it, I see it, we all see it. Look at that. Vertical. But you know what's interesting is when you compare it with the US dollar. Look, gold up, dollar down. Well, hold on a second. Currency debasement. Remember I said 1 ounce of gold is still equivalent to $1 US. The problem is the dollar is just worth a lot less now. And what is that ratio? Right there. 25 to 5,091. That's a massive loss of purchasing power of your currency. Now, we've talked about the parallel system and what's coming next. Well, I told you all what was coming next. This is from Tether. The dollar-backed stablecoin designed for the internet age. USAT is now live. The digital dollar that moves at internet speed, always one-to-one, instant, and borderless. Well, hold on a second here. What is this? This is the government-approved stablecoin that we've been talking about. You know, the one that the Secretary of Treasury is going to issue 50-year gold bonds to this company for them to print this and put it into circulation? There it is. We are literally months away from the parallel economic system skyrocketing. On top of that, Trump said today, Federal Reserve interest rates will plummet as soon as he replaces Jerome Powell as Fed chair. That's next week. Okay. What else have we got? Oh, I had that double E. Oh, gold and silver. Well, silver topping over 115, dropping back down to 100. I've said this. I think silver could easily go 150, 300. The global institutions really won't let it go much higher than that, but we'll see. I've fucking been wrong in the past, and obviously I've been wrong on this assumption right now. If you're holding silver, my biggest recommendation, take profits. Take out profits, people. If it's 10%, 20%, take out your original investment. Take out profits. Same thing with cryptocurrency. So, we are in the age of unrestricted warfare. But why is it so pertinent right now? I got a few blogs that I've been writing. I'll read this to you. It's really important. For a long time now, I've been saying that what we're watching is just not political chaos, just not economic instability. And it's not just another cycle of a partisan theater. What we are witnessing is the end of globalization as we've known it. And with it, the collapse of the post-World War II power structure that defined nearly every aspect of modern life. Globalization did not fail the world equally. It failed the West, and it failed the United States of America most of all. For decades, we were told that offshoring production, hollowing out domestic industry, and turning the American economy into a finance and technology machine was progress. We were told that cheap labor abroad would lift all boats and that efficiency would replace resilience and that global supply chains were more important than national sovereignty. What we actually got was concentrated wealth, fragile infrastructure, dependence on foreign energy and manufacturing, and a middle class that was systematically dismantled. That model is now collapsing under its own contradictions. To understand why, you have to understand what the original post-war world actually was. After World War II, the major powers effectively divided up the global economic roles. China eventually became the factory of the world. Japan became the lender, holding interest rates near zero to keep global liquidity flowing. This is why we have what's called the yen carry trade. And when Japanese bond rates skyrocket, the yield skyrockets, you see U.S. tech stocks decline dramatically because you have the carry trade of them borrowing against it, marginalizing, and then buying stocks to keep the stocks afloat. But when that bond rate goes up, they get margin called. They have to go back and sell off their stocks. Europe became the consumer bloc, trading productivity and military power for social stability and welfare systems. The United States became the enforcer, underwriting the system with the petrodollar and the largest military footprint in human history. If you wanted to participate in global trade, you used the dollar to buy energy. You respected U.S. strategic interests, and you operated inside Western financial institutions. If you played by the rules, you got access to capital and markets. If you didn't, you got sanctions, regime change, or war. This wasn't just economic policy. It was an enforcement architecture. Simon Dixon has called it proof of the weapons network, not proof of work, not proof of stake, but proof that military force ultimately backed by financial systems. For a while, it worked. U.S. corporations made enormous profits. Financial markets exploded. Investors thrived. Entire retirement systems were built on asset inflation. But this model required something far darker beneath the surface: permanent war, permanent instability, permanent outsourcing of real economic production. One second. Let's just see how much longer we had on this. America stopped making things. We made money, software, and weapons. Everything else was imported. And that came at a cost. Communities collapsed, wages stagnated, strategic industries vanished, supply chains became geopolitical vulnerabilities, and the nation that once built the arsenal of democracy became dependent on foreign factories for everything from semiconductors to antibiotics. Now fast forward to today. The nations that were once subordinate inside the system have spent a decade building parallel structures, parallel banking, parallel energy systems, parallel trade routes, and parallel security arrangements. They are now powerful enough that enforcing the old rules would require a world war. And no one actually wants that. Even the architects of globalization are now admitting that the experiment has failed. At the most recent World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, the message was not subtle. Globalization, as practiced over the last 40 years, has failed Western societies. It hollowed out domestic economies, destabilized politics, and concentrated wealth in the financial institutions while leaving workers behind. Now, capital is moving home. Japan is being forced to repatriate investments and sell U.S. treasuries. Europe has learned the hard way that outsourcing energy and security leaves you with no leverage. And as global demand for dollar weakens, the foundation of the petrodollar system starts to crack. So the real question isn't whether the old system is ending. It is. The real question is, what replaces it? To understand that, you have to understand the actual power players shaping the transition. First are what I call the financial globalists or transnational capital. They are not nation states. They do not pledge allegiance to flags. Their loyalty is the capital mobility itself. At the top of the structure sit the major asset managers, particularly BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, which collectively manage tens of trillions of dollars. Their power does not come from owning companies directly, but from controlling voting rights through index funds and ETFs. Then you have banks and central banks. Besides that, you have governments and institutions, Wall Street, billionaires, financial players. This is a long blog. I'm not going to read all of it because there's another one that I actually need to get into, and I'm running out of time. But I want you to begin to see here that the old world, the new world order, is failing. It is ended. For most, the post-World War II era, the world that operated under what was marketed as a rules-based international order, but in reality functioned as a tightly managed system of economic, military, and institutional control, is failed. The United States enforced global security. The dollar served as a reserve currency. International institutions set policy frameworks, and global trade flowed through carefully protected financial and logistical choke points. This system created stability, but it also created dependency. And over time, that dependency hardened into leverage. What was framed as cooperation increasingly became coercion, and what was sold as free markets became regulatory capture by transnational institutions and corporate monopolies. China's rise did not happen outside the system, but inside it. Western capital, technology transfers, and market access built China into the manufacturing center of the world, while Beijing quietly studied the vulnerabilities of the very system that enabled it to grow. Rather than challenging U.S. military dominance head-on, China pursued long-term economic integration, supply chain positioning, currency experimentation, and infrastructure diplomacy. The Belt and Roads Initiative was not just about building ports and railways. It's about embedding China into the physical and financial arteries of dozens of countries that had long been marginalized by Western developed nations. At the same time, Russia, Iran, and regional powers began building parallel financial systems, alternative energy trade routes, and bilateral agreements that designed to bypass Western banking structures. Sanctions that once considered a decisive tool in economic warfare accelerated this process rather than stopped it. Each new round of restrictions forced targeted countries to innovate around dollar settlement systems, Western insurance markets, and shipping controls. What emerged was not a unified anti-Western bloc, but a growing patchwork of economic relationships that no longer depended on Western approval to function. That's the BRICS nations. This is where the concept of unrestricted warfare becomes critically important. Modern conflict is no longer confined to missiles or troop deployments. Financial markets, information ecosystems, legal frameworks, social polarization, and supply chain dependencies all become weapons. It is this environment, competition between major powers does not look like traditional war. It looks like regulatory battles, technology bans, currency disputes, media narratives, NGO activism, trade restrictions, cyber operations, and political influence campaigns. The battlefield is not a distant territory. It is the internal stability of societies themselves. The United States and China are now locked in precisely this type of systematic competition. It's not simply about Taiwan or trade deficits. It's about who controls technological standards, who writes financial rules, who shapes the development models, and who defines legitimacy on the global stage. Semiconductor controls, rare earth minerals, shipping insurance regulations, data governance, even climate frameworks all function as strategic levers. Each side is attempting to shape the operating system of the future global economy, not merely win isolated disputes. Now, this goes back to what we just talked about. Globalism has failed. The rules-based international order is over. And the world is grasping in the midst of the chaos before it ensues for a new solution. China has been fighting a secret war to control that. What we are witnessing is not the collapse of global trade, but the fragmentation of global control. Instead of one centralized economic order, we're moving towards a multipolar structure where regional blocks pursue overlapping but independent systems of finance, energy, manufacturing, and security. Go back to Trump's national security and national defense strategies. Western Hemisphere is our focus. This does not mean harmony. It means constant negotiation, pressure campaigns, proxy conflicts, narrative warfare as competing power centers attempt to expand influence without triggering full-scale military confrontations. For the United States, this transition is especially destabilizing because the old order was deeply integrated into domestic institutions. Universities, corporations, NGOs, regulatory bodies, the media ecosystem were built around globalist frameworks that assumed American primacy and institutional permanence. As that assumption erodes, internal political conflict intensifies. Economic nationalism, populist movements, regulatory backlash, and distrust of centralized institutions are not accidental side effects. They are the domestic consequences of a global system losing its coherence. China, on the other hand, is attempting to move from being the factory of the world to being a full-spectrum technological and financial power capable of sustaining independent innovation, trade networks, and currency mechanisms. That transition is risky, expensive, and politically complex, but it reflects the strategic calculation that reliance on Western markets and financial infrastructure is no longer acceptable in a world where economic access can be weaponized overnight. This is why so much of today's conflict feels psychological rather than kinetic. Public opinion, cultural division, information overload, and institutional distrust are not social problems. They are strategic terrain. When societies lose confidence in their own governance, economic fairness, and shared reality, they become far easier to destabilize, manipulate, and fragment. Fifth generation warfare does not require invasion. It requires erosion, confusion, and paralysis. The so-called rules-based order was never purely about rules. It was about who had the power to enforce them, interpret them, and selectively apply them. As new power centers emerge, those enforcement mechanisms weaken, and the legitimacy of centralized global governance structures comes into question. What replaces them will not be a single new empire, but a competitive ecosystem of alliances, trade corridors, digital currencies, and security arrangements that shift based on regional interests and strategic necessity. We are entering a world where sovereignty, not globalization, becomes the primary organizing principle again, but sovereignty expressed through technological capacity, financial independence, and narrative control rather than territorial conquest. Nations that can secure energy, food, industrial supply chains, and digital infrastructure will have the leverage. Those that cannot will find themselves trapped inside economic frameworks they no longer control. This transition is messy, volatile, psychologically exhausting because there is no clean breakpoint where the old world ends and the new one begins. Institutions built for a unipolar era are now being forced to operate in a multipolar reality. And that mismatch produces crisis after crisis. Trade disputes become national security issues. Cultural debates become geopolitical flashpoints. Corporate policies become instruments of state power. What is unfolding is not chaos for its own sake. It is a structural realignment of global power that will define the next several decades. The United States and China are not merely competing over markets or military influence. They are competing over which model of economic organization, technological governance, and political legitimacy will shape the future international system. And unlike past eras, this contest is playing out inside of our screens, our institutions, and our social relationships as much as on the diplomatic stages. The uncomfortable truth is that the multipolar worlds are historically less stable than unipolar worlds, but they are also less capable of enforcing universal control. Power becomes more distributed, more contested, and more negotiated. For populations, this means uncertainty, volatility, and political polarization. For elites, it means a scrambling to secure positions inside emerging blocks. For states, it means relearning how to compete without assuming guaranteed dominance. Whether this transition leads to managed competition or open confrontation will depend less on military posturing and more on whether societies can maintain internal cohesion while navigating external pressure. In the age of unrestricted and fifth-generation warfare, the strength of a nation is no longer measured solely by its weapons, but by its ability to preserve trust, stability, and strategic clarity in an environment designed to dissolve all three. If the old world order was built on centralized enforcement, the new multipolar world will be built on contested networks. Influence will shift not just between nations, but between corporations, financial systems, digital platforms, ideological movements that transcend borders. Understanding this reality is not optional anymore. It is the baseline requirement for making sense of why everything feels unstable, why institutions seem hollowed out, and why global politics now looks less like diplomacy and more like continuous low-grade conflict. And this is not the end of history. It is the return of history, operating through technology, finance, and psychology instead of just armies and borders. Welcome to the world of unrestricted warfare, people. That's where we are today, and that's the war that Donald Trump is fighting, and he is fighting it like an absolute strategic master, because I do believe he is winning. One thing, don't forget to go visit redpills.tv. The new website is up. If you subscribe over there, let me know if you guys find any bugs or anything like that. But redpills.tv, redpills.tv, that blog that I wrote, that I just read, you can find on our Substack. I recommend you go subscribe out there, help support us. redpillproject.substack.com. That's where you can find that. About 30 minutes from now, I'm heading over to DEF CON 0. So I hope to see many of you guys there on DEF CON 0. Just myself, unless someone else is going to join me from Badlands. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you guys have a great night. I'm going to leave Song of the Year. I wish it was, if someone nominate this song as a Song of the Year, that'd be pretty cool. I don't even know if there's a place to do that. But I'm going to leave you with this song, something that I wrote and that AI helped me build. But I hope you guys all have a great night. A little late tomorrow. There's a wrestling match, so I'll be a little late tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe, like, share. And if you like that music, there's the information on how to get it right there. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. We'll see you
tomorrow. There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known with pride in the rules that time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns to silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Through the smoke, a voice still calls. We the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a last prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil undone. Patriots rise, we are one. Land of the free, home of the brave. No more silence, no more slaves. Answer the call, take back the fight. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time, there was a time. Now is the time. Do it.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!